This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the powerful one, Ken Powers, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today. The trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I am, of course, your host, James J. And it is a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the powerful one, Ken Powers.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. It's fine Labor Day that we're having this discussion, you know. Long weekend of wrestling, so it's a good chance for me to get some rest and recovery going on before the next week goes. How about you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good as well. And when are we going to see the Powerful One next, event-wise?
That is a good question. Let me just take a look at the calendar. You know, I gotta remember which ones are which. So the next one coming up, September 16th, Saturday, I will be in, it's one of the townships, but I will be in New Jersey for Titan Championship Wrestling and Goddesses of War Wrestling presents Blaze of Glory. It's going to be a good show down there. As the current reigning TCW American champion, I will obviously be there defending my title. Against who, I'm not sure, but, you know, the powerful one always enjoys a good challenge. So we'll see who Titan Man is able to find for me.
All right. And how can we find you on social media in your merchandise?
Yeah, so social media, I am on every single social media platform except for, I didn't make Threads yet, but I'm holding off on that one. But you can find me everywhere at The Ken Powers. My Facebook page is also The Ken Powers. And I do occasionally live stream on Twitch over at twitch.tv/the_Ken Powers. The only slight difference. And merchandise-wise, if you'd like to support me, I do have stuff that I sell in person at shows that's show exclusive. But for all my general merch, you can head on over to prowrestlingtees.com/thekenpowers. I have a couple of new designs I just put up between one of my tag teams, Social Influence, and I do have a new Polish Power t-shirt available as well.
Right. And you don't have to go looking for those links. All of the links will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Alright, let's get into it. You work for TCW and Lucky Pro Wrestling. Can you tell us about your relationship with those companies?
Yeah, sure. Well, TCW and Lucky Pro are two of the many companies I've had the pleasure of working for. Yeah. So Titan Championship Wrestling, based out of New Jersey. I started working with them last November. They brought me in for their Mount Olympus show. And I have basically been on every single Titan show since. I think Titan, the product that we bring forward, is very solid. I really do enjoy working with the talent that we have available there, from the likes of like a Chris Cage, PJ Savage, and Anthony Gangone, some of the younger guys like the Rockets, the J Outcasts. There's a lot of guys down there doing a lot of good work. And similar idea to Lucky Pro up in Massachusetts, where I am, unfortunately, a former LPW Tag Team Champion. We just recently lost the tag belts at the last LPW show. But this coming month, September, I believe it's the 22nd, LPW has another show, and me and my boy are going to hopefully reclaim our tag straps from the hoods. But LPW, another fantastic promotion. Two different ends of the New England spectrum, where you've got the more hard-hitting, in-your-face style of Titan with the Jersey, New York scene, and then you've got the more athletic, technical side of the New England scene with a lot of the people coming from the New England Pro Wrestling Academy and, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut wrestlers up there a lot, and a lot of good faces up there. You've got Wrestling Open regulars like Gal Barquet up there. We've had appearances by Flip Gordon. We've had Anthony Green up there. We've got Scotty Slade, a New England vet. We've got a lot of different talent up there too. So definitely two of the biggest places I would love to push as much as possible, because I love working for them and I believe in the product they put forward. But if I have to add one more place in particular,
Absolutely.
I have to shout out Invictus Pro Wrestling, currently set in New York. That company started during the pandemic in 2020. I had been with that company in some capacity since the beginning. I was originally, before I had the ability to take bookings, I was a security guard. I was part of the ring crew. And then eventually, once I was cleared, I was able to, start working for them in a physical form. And now I am currently there as part of a 5-man faction called Genisis. And we've been doing a lot of good work there. But Invictus has been honestly one of the forefronts of the tri-state / New York, New Jersey wrestling scene. They brought in a lot of great talent. They put a lot of people on the map who some people may not have recognized at the beginning, but they gave them a platform to really excel and show the larger wrestling audience what they're capable of. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned, maybe a difference between Lucky Pro and Titan. And it does seem like your style of wrestling fits Titan Pro Wrestling a little bit more, because you do draw people around rather easily, right?
Yeah, I would say I do fit the general vibe at Titan better, just because as you've mentioned, I even have it on merchandise. I throw people around constantly. But I think that's also an aspect that, because I do that so consistently, I bring that aspect everywhere I go, and it helps bring a different flavor to the same shows. So even if you have a show full of technical wrestlers and high flyers, you've got people like me who are like, well, you want to fly? Well, it's going to be time to fly, because I'm going to throw you across the ring. But I think the people recognize that. I think, as wrestling evolves and as wrestling has diversified, especially in the last 15, 20 years, a lot of shows now understand that you need to offer a little bit of everything to everyone. You can't just get away with just being one style of wrestling. You have to give the wider audience as much, it's the Bruce Pritchard flavors of ice cream quote.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's got their flavor of ice cream they prefer. So if companies bring in, diverse sets of talent who can bring different aspects to every show, then they can appeal to the most people possible.
Now, we've both mentioned it. You do draw people a lot. Who did you draw the farthest, or maybe you drew them and you didn't expect them to get that much airtime, or like who has that honor of being thrown the farthest?
The honor of being thrown the farthest. There's a stiff set of competition up at the top there. I'll tell you that. You know what? I'm not sure I can name one, but I'll give you three.
Okay.
I'll give you the three that I can definitely say I've thrown the farthest. First one that comes to mind, he is a Team 3D Academy graduate just like me, Clipper Jones.
Okay.
He is also one of my faction mates currently in Genesis, which is why I don't really throw him around anymore. But, I mean, I have thrown him around to hit our opponents with him, but I don't tend to, give him the big suplexes anymore. But as far as opponents, regular opponents now, I'd have to shout out the greatest damn showman, Jocko. Titan regular, Invictus regular. I believe he's done stuff with the Sanctuary. New York wrestler. I love the kid. I've got all the respect in the world for him, but he has been one of... I was shocked at how easy it was to throw him. I knew he would be like, he was like, yeah, go for it, give it your all. But even when I gave my all, I was like, you went a little farther than I thought you would. And the last name I got to shout out, one of the members of First Class, ODIFC, I got to give props to Johnny Santos. Santos has been one of my favorite people to be in the ring with. And every chance I get an opportunity to work him in either a tag setting or more recently we did an 8-man tag, it's always been an absolute delight to work with him.
Well, we know why Clipper is in Genesis now. Didn't want to get thrown by Ken Powers anymore. He's like, hey, let's be a tag team now. Now, are you going, when you do draw people, are you going for height or distance?
When in doubt, it's both. Usually, it depends on the throw. Because if I'm going for my classic Beal out of the corner, that's a little bit more height focused for the visual aspect. But if I'm doing a fall away slam, I tend to prefer the distance. I like to go from one side of the ring and basically throw them to the other side of the ring.
Okay. Now, earlier you mentioned Invictus Pro. Would you consider that your home promotion, so to speak?
At this point, a combination of Invictus and Titan would probably be my quote-unquote home promotions. I have been absolutely blessed, but also it's a little bit of a curse in this situation where the majority of places that I work are not in my home state. I am usually traveling at least an hour and a half each way to a lot of the shows I work nowadays. But Titan, Invictus, I'm on pretty much every single show those two companies run. Lucky Pro is probably the closest one that I would consider home. But considering how young I am into my career and how many places I've had the pleasure of working, I don't really have one place I've fully settled in. It's not, I try my best to work as much as I can, as many places as I can, as many different people as I can. But yeah, if I have to name a home promotion, Invictus/Titan.
Okay. Well, you did mention that you are the TCW American Champion. What does it mean to you to hold that championship?
Well, speaking as the American Champion, speaking as your American hero, I represent the best of what America has to offer at Titan Championship Wrestling. I am a young, hungry, aggressive, vicious kind of guy who's willing to do what he's got to do to get the job done. And at the end of the day, isn't that truly what the American spirit is? It's land of the free, home of the brave, the land of opportunity. And I'm giving an opportunity to all these people who I step in the ring with to see what true American spirit is.
Oh yeah, and you're giving an opportunity to somebody on Saturday as well that you don't even know who it is yet.
Yeah, on Saturday the 16th, I don't know who I'm facing yet, but considering the level of talents that I've stepped in the ring with for the TCW title, between people like Steve Monster Mack and the Patriot himself, last defense I faced a young up-and-comer out of that area called Blocks, but I've had a very interesting string of talents ranging from 20-year vets to young, hungry guys like me, and I'm willing to accept any and all challengers.
And when you did win the championship, I believe that was in April, May?
May, that would be correct.
May, okay. When you did finally win that championship, what was that moment like in the ring getting handed the championship?
Well, being handed my first singles title, it was, obviously it wasn't my first, not obviously, but it wasn't my first title in wrestling. But even then, as my first singles championship, as much as people want to be like, blah, 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 it's, as a young man who grew up loving this industry and loving the sport, having something to show that, like, hey, I'm finally here. I'm really doing my best to make the dream a reality. It was definitely a special moment. I believe immediately I finished the match. I grabbed the flag before I got handed the belt. I put my hands in my face real quick just to kind of have that little quick moment of like, oh, this is real and we're here.
Oh. Well, let's talk about your faction mates in Genesis. Tyler Kosenko, Abs, Clipper Jones. What can you tell us about your relationship with those guys?
So, those are actually only two of the members of Genesis. There are two other members, but I can understand the confusion there because TKO Kosenko and Clipper Jones are both guys that I trained with and grew up in the Team 3D Academy with when I started training there. So I've been around them for most of my wrestling career at this point. And, I have all the love in the world for both those kids. Clipper Jones, I will go to bat any day of the week and say Clipper Jones is one of the most underrated talents in New England today. I believe the package he brings between his body, his physicality in the ring, his style of work, his promo game, I believe he has a very high ceiling. And the day that people finally realize what he's truly capable of, I will be so incredibly happy for him. And TKO Kosenko, I can't put it past him as well. He is my former, my tag team champion that I was with, part of #SocialInfluence. The kid he is always willing to try to go out of the box and try to be different in ways that some people aren't willing to. He is a bit of a risk taker when it comes to that, but I truly believe he has a solid mind for the game. I know that when he gets that opportunity and when he's really on point, he's still, he's definitely no one to look past as a wrestler. But I will, obviously, as we're talking about Genesis faction mates, I have to shout out the other two. Jason Andrews, coming out of the DMV, Also another Invictus original. He was there since the second Invictus show. He is one of the most humble and down-to-earth guys that I've ever shared a locker room with. His focus is always in the right place. I know that he cares about how, not just his own personal performance, he cares so much about the matches he puts on, how he presents them, how the people react. He has a great mindset for the business. And then, last but not least, we got to shout out Totally Not Fake Abs. My partner in Genesis, but also my tag team partner at Fight Life, as one half of Core Power.
Yes.
Abs is a very infectiously positive person. When he is in that mindset and when he's there before a show, he's always trying to spit out ideas. He's always trying to come up with things. He's always trying to make sure that he's doing his best to put his best foot forward with everything and anything he's given. And, you know, I've got a chance to see that as part of Genesis and Core Power, and I got love for everybody in Genesis. I mean, if there were people would not be in Genesis if they did not have a role to play, if they were not there for a reason, if they did not earn that position. I believe every single person in Genesis has more than earned their spot.
Now, what's a pet peeve about all the members of Genesis that you just don't understand about them?
You want to know a pet peeve of mine towards the members of Genesis?
Yes.
Ooh, that's honestly, that's a hard question to answer, just because I don't really have anything that I don't really have much bad to say about anybody in wrestling. Where my point is, when it comes to my mindset, when it comes to my mentality with wrestling, I don't like to spend my energy on negative emotions, negative thoughts, negative feelings towards anyone, any other talent or promoters or anything like that. My job as a wrestler is to go out there and do my best to perform for the people. And if I'm spending time and energy on things that do not affect that, it does not help me. The only thing that I can say annoying about anybody is TK Canada forgets to clean his trash out of my car sometimes when I carpool with him. So, hey kid, get your garbage out of my car.
Okay. Now, we talked about Abs and your tag team, and a while back ago, you may have not done too well in the tag team match, and Abs sent you an apology dance video?
Oh, yeah. So, Abs is a very special kind of guy. So what the situation you're referring to is, at Fight Life, we had the Call Your Shot Battle Royal. And the point of the Battle Royal was, if you won, whoever won got to have a match with anyone with whatever stipulation they wanted. And I was there as a member of Core Power to try and win the match, get us a match with one of the many fantastic tag teams that Fight Life has to offer, between people, any combination of the people in the unit, or we've got Miracle Generation, we've got Gay Best Friends with Becca and Aaron Rourke, we've got Speedball Mike Bailey and Bay Scott. There's so many. Shannon Levangi and Marcus Mathers started teaming together. There's so many fantastic talents that I was like, oh my god, this is a great chance for us to prove ourselves. And he couldn't make it to the show. So, unfortunately, since he didn't have my back, I ended up eliminated. And I called him. I told him, hey, man, like, we had this shot. Like, this is going to be great for both of us. Why weren't you there? We talked it out. And I was like, all right, fine. Then later, he sends me this Instagram post of him doing this little sad boy dance, fully apologizing for not being at the show. And I just, as much as we're getting better as a tag team, there's definitely some things we're not on the same page with. So we're working on it.
Well, you are on the same page as Tyler, because you did win the Lucky Pro Tag Team Championships with him. As you said, just recently lost them. But, as being the first championship you did actually hold, with somebody you know quite well, what did that mean to you, and what was that experience like?
Okay, that was, honestly, it was a really special night. It was the Halloween Lucky Pro show. So Tico and I we had to wrestle 2 matches that night to win the tag titles because we were doing a tournament. So our first match, we snuck in and beat up our opponents dressed as Michael Myers and Ghostface before starting the actual match. And then later, we were able to successfully beat Brad Cashew and El Spartano, 2 of definitely some of the hottest rising stars coming out of New England Pro Wrestling today.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, New England Pro Wrestling Academy. Shout out to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, of course. But that moment, finally, the 2 of us, it's funny. Yeah, we were schoolmates together at the Team 3D Academy, but that pairing was a complete, happenstance of, situations just lined up perfectly, where one Lucky Pro show, he was wrestling another 3D Academy guy, Clifford Jones, I already mentioned, but I came out as Tyler's cameraman for the show because he was doing, he does his vlogs. Shout out, youtube.com/TK Kosenko.
Right.
Gotta give him props. But we did that, and then we didn't tell the promoter we were doing that. So I came out with him during the entrance, and the promoter tried to stop us before we went curtain, but we didn't hear him, so we just went out. And I was just going to go out with him and then just stand next to the entranceway and record the match. The promoter slides out from backstage right behind me, gets my ear and goes, "Play it up, kid, you part of the show." So I just started hammering it up extra, filming people and, talking trash to the crowd and, doing silly things like that. We get backstage, promoter looks at us, he's like, "I got something for you guys." And he put us together and, Lucky Pro gave us that opportunity, and I feel like we took the ball, we rolled with it, and we've done a lot as social influence in the short time we've been together. We've actually only been a team for a little over a year now. But yeah, winning those tag titles with a fellow Team 3D Academy member, in front of other people from my school. My dad was in the audience too, so having that moment with those people, it was truly special.
That being said, do you prefer Scream over Halloween?
Here's where I might get some flack. I don't like horror movies at all. I absolutely hate horror movies. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always been too afraid to watch horror movies. And the funniest thing is I've only seen 3 horror movies off the top of my head. Every single one of them, I only saw it because I'm on a date with a girl. And that's the only reason I went to see them at all. Otherwise, I don't watch horror movies. Which definitely, some of my friends are not happy with me about that. Tico especially, because Tico is a big he's a huge fan of the Halloween series. I believe he literally has multiple different versions of the Michael Myers mask from like the different iterations and the different like continuities. But yeah, he reached to me one day. He was like, "Yeah, we're doing the Halloween show, so I got Michael Myers. Like, why don't you go as Ghostface?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, it'll be easy enough. I just need a cloak and a mask." So I did it for him. But like, yeah, I actually just I can't watch horror movies to sit in my life.
Well, hey, seeing seeing a horror movie because of a girl is the best reason to watch a horror movie.
I guess I can't argue with that thing.
No, we've spoken about the members of Genesis. Is Samira a part of Genesis?
Ah, yes, Samira. So technically speaking, she's not a full-fledged member of Genesis, just because the purpose of Genesis is we are a group of Invictus originals who were left behind by the company when they got a little bit too big for their britches, and they were so focused on their indie darlings and flying in these big names who only showed up for one show and never came back. Meanwhile, we're there working our asses off the whole time, and where was our shot? Where was our thank you for getting your company off the ground? So in that sense, Samira didn't join Invictus until late 2022, so she's not an Invictus original. However, she is Genesis's personal ring announcer. So at Invictus, and also possibly at Titan in the future too, we'll have to see. She is our exclusive ring announcer. So even if we're at Invictus with Ryan Peterson or whoever, they're not allowed to announce us. It's Samira's job because she's the only one we trust.
And that's quite the feat, because there may have been issues, said controversies, when she failed to announce you properly a while back ago.
Yeah, that is. It's funny how we went from, in retrospect, clearly just a misunderstanding. She was misled by Titan management into believing that I wasn't the American champion. And I mean, semantics aside, I wasn't at the time technically the American champ. I should have been the American champion because the belt was vacated and I was the #1 contender. So clearly I should be the champion. So I did my job as a champion should, but management for some reason didn't seem to understand that. But we've smoothed things out. Everything's good between me and Samira, and I am very happy to have her as Genesis's personal ring announcer.
Okay. That brings us to our next segment, Ken Powers' Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits the description?
Weird. I'm trying to think of things that would be bizarre or weird. I mean, I've had like situations where I'll be driving to shows and I'll see like traffic will happen and I'll be like, I'm confused, what's going on? And I drive by, there's a car that's like clearly exploded. Just last night I got was driving home from a show in New Hampshire and I got pulled over by the cops. That was, luckily he was a very understanding gentleman. We talked it out and I got off with a written warning, so nothing too crazy there. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, since I haven't been in the business as long as a lot of people, I just haven't had the opportunity to have some of these crazy stories. But I'm only about a year and a half in, so I got a lot of time left to have something happen.
And just knowing, having spoken to a lot of people, something's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories from other people. Like, I've heard stories of some of my other trainees who, just because they felt like it, they went to a gay bar, had some drinks, and then started like chain wrestling each other on the dance floor. And like, there's things like that. You hear the stories of like the strip club stories and the partying stories. Like, there's always things like that. But yeah, it's gonna happen eventually. Something will happen where I end up in some kind of crazy situation.
I think we've had the best strip club story of all time on the shows. Look up Mickey Knuckles. You will not be disappointed.
I'll have to look it up after the show.
Now, can you tell us about your matches with Wrecking Ball Legorsky?
Oh yeah, Wrecking Ball Legorsky, NWA superstar, one half of the Fixers. So I have had the pleasure of having 3 matches with Wrecking Ball. Actually, I've had 3 singles matches with Wrecking Ball. I've also been in a Rumble match with him, and I have also been in a tag match with him. I'm not sure if it's it's decently well known. Wrecking Ball did spend a good stint of time over at the Team 3D Academy. So when I was first training and when I was first getting my work on shows, he was one of the people who was helping me. He was one of the people who was really kind of pointing me in the right direction, helping me with certain character things or story-driven things. He's helped me a ton when it comes to the wrestling business already. And I can fully say that I have never had a bad match with Wrecking Ball Legorsky. It's just 2 guys hitting the hell out of each other for usually like 8 to 10 minutes. And, there's always the drama. There's always the emotion. I actually did have my first wrestling match on a show with Wrecking Ball Legorsky. My first ever match in front of a crowd. It was a special night for me. I had, all my family and friends were there, and it was absolutely incredible. So for somebody who's given me so much in this business, I can never say enough good about that man.
Now, I'm not entirely sure about the timeline. I'm assuming that's when he was just going into NWA, picking steam up. When you had your first match against him, and you got the W on him. So what did that mean to you to beat Wrecking Ball? That's, obviously making a name for himself on the independents and on NWA TV. And hey, it's my first match. I get to beat him.
Well, fun little peek behind the curtain. I didn't know I was beating him until he didn't kick out.
Wow.
So we went into this whole thing. I was like, oh, it's my first match. I'm not going to beat him. But then at the end, he charged me in the corner. I got out of the way. I tabletopped him. He fell over. I covered him. Ref goes 1, 2, 3. And immediately I'm like, wait, what? what happened? and he gets angry. He charges at me real quick. I roll out of the ring, I'm still taking in that moment of like, what do you mean? What do you mean I just beat Wrecking Ball Legorsky? And yeah, I mean, your timeline's right. He was just getting his head of steam in the NWA, and then a couple months later is when he and Jay Bradley won the United States tag titles. So
Okay. Now, and you did wrestle him a couple of months ago, correct?
yes. So a couple months ago, the original plan was for me and him to have a singles match, but this was at Northeast Wrestling, and my boy TK Okasenko was going to have a match with RJ Rude over there. So we come out, we do a little spiel, introducing ourselves. RJ comes out, I jump him from behind. We start beating him up. Wrecking Ball comes out of the back, and he's like, "Hey, we're not playing that." And they challenge us to an impromptu tag match. So we then, we weren't planning on tag team wrestling that night, but then we had a tag match with RJ Rude and Wrecking Ball.
Now, considering he was your first match, and now, you've had so much progression since then, what did you kind of see inside yourself that was different wrestling him this time around than obviously the first time around?
Honestly, it's more for myself, because at this point it had been over a year since my debut when I most recently wrestled him.
Right.
And just having had the opportunities I've had and having the amount of time and matches I've had, really seeing the difference between looking back at the kid I was, I was 28 years old. Not exactly a kid.
A kid in pro wrestling.
Kid in pro wrestling, yeah, because as far as the crowd's concerned, I just got here.
Right.
But being someone who was that young into the business versus where I'm at 1 year in with all the experiences I've had, just that dynamic of how we played off each other then versus now is so vastly different. And I mean, who knows, maybe a year from now when I hope to continue having opportunities to wrestle him, but maybe a year from now when we wrestle each other, the dynamic will continue to shift and change as both of us, as I continue to really learn and get a grasp of the business, and as he continues to mature and hone in on the things that really make Wrecking Ball the NWA Wrecking Ball who he is.
Now, you trained at 3D Academy, but before that, you trained at Netflix. What kind of led you from stopping training there, and what ultimately led you back to, when you did come back, what made you not go back to Network?
Well, you did tell me you did your research, and clearly you've done your research. Yeah, I mean, so what happened? It's funny enough, because that just popped up in my Facebook memory feed. So I first started training at New England Pro about a little over 9 years ago now. I was still a young college kid, doing his thing at college, but then I was like, all right, I want to start training as a wrestler. And I had gone to a couple of one-day fantasy camps at New England Pro before. And, I knew New England Pro was like, Kofi Kingston came out of here, and, Sasha Banks has come out of here. Like, a lot of incredible, like Kenny Dykstra, like, a lot of incredible talent coming out of that school. So I was like, all right, this is the place for me. The problem is, I was doing college in Connecticut. So I was at the University of Connecticut at the time. So I was driving back and forth to New England Pro 3 days, 10 to 4 days a week if we had a show. And those drives were like 200 miles each way. of driving. So it was like at least 2.5, sometimes 3 hours if I had like a lot of traffic. Like these were long drives. And eventually, like, driving that much financially, I just wasn't able to afford it. I was still in college. As much as I wanted to keep pushing, between that and I had some, I'm open about this. I also had some mental health issues at that time that I needed to get sorted. So I had to take a step back from wrestling. I really wish I had come back sooner, but at the same time, I wasn't really in a position to do so.
Right.
But what brought me back was in I think it was 2019. A friend of mine and I went to a Northeast wrestling show, and this kind of stems from another little like tidbit. When I was training back then at New England Pro, was around the same time. And by around the same time, I mean I started a couple weeks later. The man who is now currently known as Flip Gordon started training over there. So I ran into Flip at my gym, my local gym, a couple years back, and he saw me. I saw him. I was like, oh, like, he probably doesn't remember me. And then the next time we saw each other, he looked. Was like, hey, did you used to go to England Pro? And I was like, yeah, Flip, what's up? Like, long time no see. So we were talking, and he was the one who mentioned that WRESTLINGWITHE opened a new school up here in Connecticut. But I was like, well, that's really cool. It's a closer school, then I don't have to do a 3-hour drive each way just to go to wrestling training. But then my friend and I went to that Northeast wrestling show. Flip was there. He was injured at the time. I believe he tore his tricep, so he was able to wrestle. But he was there interacting with fans and everything. He saw me. He said, "What's up?" And he was like, "Hey, some of the guys from back in the day were here. Like, let's go say hi." And I ran it. I got to talk to like Chris Casanova again. Before he went to NXT. Cam Zagami was there, and some of those guys had like kind of remembered who I was from back then. But then we went down. My friend and I went and started watching the show, and then at intermission, I was talking to my friend. I was like, I have to do this. I've waited way too long. I need to get back into wrestling. So I took a little bit of time to, focus my gym efforts a little bit better, get myself in the right shape. Then I called up Team 3D Academy. They were like, all right, here, come this day, here's the price. Showed up, talked to Bubba, and the rest is history.
So it wasn't necessarily an option to go back to New England Academy?
I don't really know how much things internally might have changed since then, because the man who was in charge of New England Pro when I was there is no longer in charge.
Okay.
I have no problems with. Obviously, I like New England Pro. I wouldn't have gone there in the first place if I didn't think they were doing good. It's more just the distance factor was too big for me. And with my current career trajectory in real life, moving was not exactly in the cards. But at the same time, when I originally signed up for New England Pro, they had a program where it was like you pay X amount and then basically get a lifetime membership. And then after that, if you want to come back, you just pay monthly dues. If I ever end up back in their neck of the woods for a long period of time, I'll probably reach out and be like, hey, like, this is how it is. Will you on to that? Or like, can I at least we'll talk about that. But, Chase Monte is pretty cool. I've never met, I think Max Smashmaster is one of their other trainers right now. Yeah. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him yet, but I've heard good things about them. So, if I ever end up back in their neck of the woods, I definitely wouldn't say no to training with them.
Okay. So it would be safe to say you definitely identify more as a Team 3D Academy student than New England Fall Academy.
Oh, for sure. I've spent significantly more time at Team 3D Academy, and the majority of my learning and growth as a wrestler has been with Team 3D. So I don't really like the New Pro thing is more of a fun fact about me. But I'm not. I don't think I spent anywhere near as much time as I should have there to really call myself a New England Pro wrestler, like an EPWA guy.
I gotcha. All right. Can you tell us about competing in strongman competitions?
Yes, strongman. One of honestly my love when it comes to physical fitness is strongman. I grew up. I didn't know it at the time, but around like 2010-ish is when I really started to see strongman in more of a mainstream view. Like that's when the World Strongest Man competitions were starting to take off. 2011 is when Brian Shaw won his first World Strongest Man title. But I love strongman as a sport. Just big boys picking up really heavy objects and just whether it's like lifting it overhead or carrying them. I've always seen it as absolutely fun, and especially training in it was the best. I loved it. So currently I've only competed in one strongman competition, which is mostly because I have been very busy with wrestling, which is obviously a fantastic problem to have, where I'm like, oh, I don't have time to compete in strongman because I'm wrestling every weekend. But I definitely have plans to get back to strongman competitions as well, just because it is an absolute blast. The people in our local strongman community, got to shout out my gym, Lightning Fitness, here in South Windsor, Connecticut. It's the home of the band that we affectionately call, and he affectionately calls himself, the world's strongest gay, because he's an openly gay man, but he is also a top tier strongman competitor. But this gym also produced IFBB pro wrestlers or pro bodybuilders, professional level powerlifters across the board. And being there in an environment they're fantastic, both for growth as a strongman competitor, but also just as a culture. They're fantastic.
You started the strongman competition you did was prior to you making your debut, correct?
That is correct. I purposely lined up. The way the timeline worked out was by the time I was getting ready to get my approval to start wrestling, there was a strongman competition at my gym. So I was like, all right, great, this will be good. I'll do the strongman competition, and then maybe, soon after that, I'll get permission to take bookings. And it just lined up where I planned to do the strongman, and then I got my first booking for the end of May. So I had a month in between the strongman competition and my debut wrestling match, which worked out fantastically.
Now, I feel there's a difference between working out and weightlifting. There's something that goes a little bit more with weightlifting. What do you gain personally or mentally from lifting heavy things?
Yeah. I can agree with you that working out can include weightlifting, but weightlifting and working out aren't always exactly the same thing. For me, when it comes to just lifting heavy weights, I just something about it mentally just gets me going. I've always been, like I said, like I grew up loving strongman, so like having the ability to physically move a ton of weight that some people would never be able to move is fantastic feeling. Like when you finally just, the first time I pulled a 500-pound deadlift, that was absolutely fantastic for me, and I loved it. And then, the first time I pressed a log overhead, there was so many different like things that both there, and then obviously from the wrestling perspective, being able to, put myself in odd situations and be able to deal with body weight and shifting weights and moving around while carrying things as much as I've been able to, it's definitely paid off dividends, both for my love of strongman, but also for wrestling.
Now, do you always get Chipotle after the gym?
You are catching me off guard with how many of these things you're pulling out. I wish, man. If I had the funds to do it, I would get Chipotle every day after the gym. But no, if I could, I would. But nowadays, it's more of a like special occasions, like if I'm going for like heavy lifts or if I'm doing something. Yeah, like if it's going to be like a big lifting day and like I drain myself physically, then I kind of reward myself with Chipotle.
As you should. Right. Now, doing my research and just looking at your chest, could you tell us about your love of Dragon Ball Z?
Oh man, yeah. It's gonna be the same. It's gonna be a similar story to most of us. You grew up, you caught it on TV one day, and it just caught your eye, and you just loved it from that point on, and that's exactly how it worked with me. And I grew up. I remember getting, I was young enough, like back when they made things on like VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Where I got, I don't think I have it anymore, but I had like it was like a 3-episode tape from the Cell saga in Dragon Ball Z. It's been one of my it was one of my favorite shows growing up. So I was like, well, when you love something, you gotta represent it. So I did, and now it's on my chest forever.
Man, you're taking me back to the VHS days. Some people, obviously a lot of people tape traded WWE. I collected VHS of Dragon Ball Z. Because you couldn't find them. If it wasn't on TV, you couldn't really see what happened, and the best way to look for them was the VHSs or the DVDs. And for like the longest time, I had the last episodes before the ending of the Cell saga, the Perfect Cell saga, the Cell game saga, I should say. And I didn't have the conclusion. I didn't know what happened with Gohan and Cell, and so then I just found this anime store that had the DVDs, and I bought it, and this is like 10 years later, I saw the conclusion of the Cell games. So yeah, you're talking to a hardcore fan as well. What's your favorite arc?
Oh yeah. I mean, just especially because of like those memories of the VHS tape, I still will say Cell Saga is probably my favorite overall saga.
Oh yeah.
Boo Saga was close, but I really think they got there, they were doing stuff, and then I feel like just the backtracking back to LOL Goku wins. kind of just ended it for me because I was like, oh, we're in such a good place with it. Like, oh yeah, like Gohan almost beat Cell the last time. Like he was beating Cell, but then the only reason he didn't beat him was because Cell killed himself, and Goku sacrificed himself. But then I was hoping for like, oh, they build to it, and then like Gohan will learn from his mistakes, and like he'll be the one to take out Boo, and then they just didn't play on that at all, and it just went back to it. And then that's kind of my problem with Dragon Ball Super, as well as like as cool as Super is, like once they did that to Gohan, they haven't had like I've had enough of Goku wins lol. Like there's like you have so many. I feel like there's a lot more interesting like stories and ways to play things off if you went like if you pass the torch. You could pass it to like Gohan. You could pass it to Trunks. You could pass it to Goten. Like just like give it to somebody else. Let Goku just go hang out on the farm and be happy. Like I get the whole like Saiyan warriors, they're always fighting, but like at the same time, you gotta if you don't evolve the series beyond just Goku wins lol, it just starts to stagnate. And like that's even what happened with the Tournament of Powers. Like it just went to like, oh, Goku leveled up and now he's Ultra Instinct, and now he's perfect Ultra Instinct because somehow Ultra Instinct wasn't good enough. But then it's like, guys, like there's 7 other people right there. Like you gave Vegeta a new form just for him to like do something and then still lose. Like, come on, cut the guy some slack. But favorite arc, Cell Saga.
And I think, and I do agree with you to some degree, and that's probably why this the Trunks movie was so successful, was because Goku literally died in that movie at the very beginning, and it was all about Trunks. And did you watch the superhero movie?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So, and that wasn't about Goku, and honestly, it was very refreshing, and I actually enjoyed it, even though they did sell dirty in that movie.
Yeah.
Alright. Can you tell us about your Twitch stream?
Yes, the Twitch stream. Which is funny, because actually, before we got online here, I actually just did an impromptu Twitch stream with my friends. Which once I started like on shows, I stopped being as consistent with my Twitch stream. But there was a good period of time where it honestly all kicked off from pretty much from just before the pandemic and then like into the pandemic, where I wasn't really doing much, and I was like, well, I'm playing games anyway. Like, why don't I just try live streaming? Let's see what happens. And eventually I made Twitch affiliate, and I've made a little bit of money here and there from Twitch. I've done a lot of different things, and a lot of I've had a lot of fun playing a bunch of different games. I've done a bunch of like speedrunning content. I've done casual like multiplayer games. I've done this part's funny. Even though I hate horror movies, which I didn't want to do this, but my moderator convinced me to do it. I used to do a Halloween-based, like, October, I would only play spooky games. I would just play, like, horror games all throughout October, which is just hilarious. Of like, yeah, here's the guy who doesn't want to watch horror movies, but then he's playing through, The Evil Within and all this stuff. But honestly, it was fun. Like, would I have done it on my own? No. But yeah, I mean, I've always kind of prided myself on being a variety kind of guy, where it's like, anytime you tune in, I could be doing a bunch of different things. I've had a ton of fun with it. I've met a lot of great people through Twitch streaming and through subgenres of it, like the speedrunning community I've met. I got a lot of, I've met a lot of good people and made some good friends out of that.
I believe the last thing you streamed that was recorded on your Twitch channel was a speedrun of Sly Cooper.
Yes, yeah. And specifically that one is from, we used to do this more often in the Sly Cooper speedrunning community. We used to do race night. So it'd be like, pretty much like every Wednesday we would get together, pick a category in Sly Cooper, and then race each other in it, like all at the same time in Discord. And we were like, oh, well, while we're doing this, we might as well just live stream and see what happens. So yeah, that was, honestly, Sly Cooper is probably one of the games I've put the most hours into speedrunning wise. It's either that or it's Super Mario Odyssey are the two I've done the most of.
I've always been a big fan of the Sly Cooper saga. I didn't know that there was a speedrunning community for sure, but it makes me happy that people are still playing Sly Cooper.
Yeah, I mean all four of the Sly Cooper games still have relatively active speedrun communities. Sly Ones is the biggest, just because it's the easiest one to, generally speaking, get into. Not because of the tech involved and like tricks, but literally the hardware, because you just need a PS2 and a TV versus like, but like until you get to like the top level, where like if you were the top level of Sly 1, then you got to get backwards compatible PS3 within a certain level of make and model, and like I'm not at that level. I just play on a PS2. But I think actually, let me do my own double checking of my own research, because I can just pull up speedrun.com right now. Yeah, I mean my runs are still halfway decent. Both of my runs in the highest like competitive categories are within like the top 30 like fastest times on the leaderboard, which is pretty solid.
Is that just going through the game and progressing, or is that getting everything that comes with the level as well?
It depends on the category. So for Sly Cooper 1, I would say there are four main categories. There is the 90% category, which is just get through the game as fast as possible, which honestly, with the way the run is nowadays, it's skip 90% of the game. The only thing we can't really skip is World 3 and World 5. But, we have skips to basically skip the entirety of World 1, 2, and 4. But then there's longer categories like all keys, where you play every level and you get the key at the end of the level. But then there is also, we have a 100% categories. You have to get all the keys and you open all the vaults and you get all the clues. So we have different categories for everything. I believe any percent is still the most run category, because it is, it's the shortest. I think world record right now, recently it went under 32 minutes, and I think world record's 31, 35 or something right now. So
that's impressive.
Yeah, Gant is a monster. He's so good at this game.
Alright, it's time for the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about Ken Powers. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first three songs on the Ken Powers movie soundtrack?
Oh, ooh, that's a fun question. I hadn't even thought about that. The first three songs on the Ken Powers soundtrack. Okay. So the first one, kind of nod to my childhood and my boys who I grew up with, my friends who loved listening to. A nod to them. It's going to be Artist in the Ambulance by Thrice. classic song we all loved back in the day. I mean, yeah, if we're gonna do, I mean, obviously my current theme is there somewhere, but I'd like that. I feel like that doesn't count because that's just seeing an introduction. If I have to, oh my god, there's so many choices, man. This question's hard. Oh god. I feel like somewhere in there's gonna be some kind of Godsmack, like something from Godsmack, whether it's like Moon Baby or if it's like Bad Religion, something like that. We'll go Bad Religion. That one for sure. And then and I think the third one I would probably have in there would be Pretty Handsome Awkward by The Used.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I, off the top of my head, those two for sure.
All right. And that is a solid 3 picks for sure. Now that we got the soundtrack down, then we write the script, and then we go to casting. Who plays Ken Powers? And you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
I like that you specifically word it in the way that I have to do a Stan Lee style cameo.
Yes.
So I can't just be me. The meme answer is Chris Pratt because Chris Pratt just gets put in everything where he doesn't belong. Chris Pratt is Mario? Like, what are you doing? Oh god. If you gotta pick somebody to be Ken Powers, funny enough, I don't think I pick an actor because I feel like I want to pick a strongman just because I feel like a strongman would represent me better as like an overall person. So another, just because I think it'd be fun, I want to see Robert Oberst play Ken Powers, the Ken Powers biopic. America, one of the greatest American strongmen alive today. I think he'd be hilarious as Ken Powers.
Okay. Now that we got the main character down, every movie has a supporting cast. Who are 3 people in your life that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
My supporting cast. So 3 people in my real life, and then who would play them.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say, we got to give a nod to Wrecking Ball. We have to. Wrecking Ball is, like, at this point in my career especially, Wrecking Ball has been one of my biggest assets as a wrestler. Wrecking Ball is played by Wrecking Ball. Nobody, the energy that man brings places, he is such a unique kind of energy to him. Nobody's going to be able to replicate that. So Wrecking Ball played by Wrecking Ball.
And I will accept that answer.
And then we can recruit the match. So Wrecking Ball played by Wrecking Ball. Realistically, you gotta put my current most frequent tag partner in there, Tikio Kosenko. Just as the joke, because when he dyes his hair blonde, he looks a lot like a certain other wrestler. So we joke that wrestler is actually his dad. So Tikio Kosenko will be played by Cody Rhodes. There's always a joke that we have between our friend group where he's just he's Cody Rhodes' son. Whether or not he is or not, he's definitely his son.
Okay.
And then I think, honestly, the problem is I kind of want to put. I gotta put 4 because I have to mention 2 guys at the same time because they're literally brothers. Have to shout out Mook and Stock, the Vetrano brothers, other set of Team 3D Academy guys. Literally the ones that I've spent the most time with at the academy. Training together, learning from the ground up together, bumping, taking matches, working shows, driving around. We've done so much with each other. Like they would be a big crux of the supporting cast. And probably the most frequently seen supporting cast members. We need like who are good like almost twin actors, like guys who like look similar but like they don't have to be exactly twins, but if they're like close enough. Can I get the guys who play Fred and George in the Harry Potter movies? They don't look like we'd have to like do some makeup and stuff to like change them, but it'd just be hilarious. I think they'd be really funny, and like I think those kind of guys would be the right people to bring. Especially Mook is he's a very eccentric kind of guy. He's got a lot of very interesting like thoughts and movements about him. So I think and then like Doc is more of the straight guy, but he has his moments too. So I think those two I think that'd be a fun casting decision.
Okay. This is probably our most eclectic group of people in a movie.
What do you mean? Ken Powers played by a strongman featuring Wrecking Ball Legursky, Cody Rhodes, and Fred and George from the Harry Potter movies.
I love it. It does sound like a fantastic movie, and you can pre-order the tickets now.
Just go to my Pro Wrestling Tees. We're selling the tickets there.
There you go. On to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I mean, I gotta say, as a strongman, my inclination is to eat everything. So I tend to not care. Like, I think pineapple on pizza, just like the whole concept and everybody arguing over it is so overplayed. Like people are like, nobody cares that much about it. Like I'm not gonna lie, like people act like, oh my god, I'd kill somebody if they put pineapple on pizza. It's like, no, you wouldn't. You would sit there and you'd be quiet in the corner and then tweet about it on X. Like nobody cares. Just. Will I eat it? Yes. Am I going to go out of my way to order it? Probably not. That's my reaction.
Okay. What's your spirit Pokemon?
Well, I mean, you've done your research. I'd like you. you might already have an inkling on this. Spirit Pokemon. I gotta go Nidoking. It's on my arm and everything. Like, easiest answer.
I mean, yeah. We love the late great Tracy Smothers. Do you know the acronym for THUG? THUG.
I do not, actually.
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail, because a Doug can't spell.
Oh my god. That's a good one.
Weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview. Hopefully, would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical rock.
I mean, people are out there wrestling brooms and blow up sex dolls, so it wouldn't be the weirdest thing in the world.
Alright. Well, just for context, there is this wrestler named Psycho Mike that did indeed wrestle a rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
Oh my god.
Yes. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years? Oh god. I see myself still. Dream wise, I'd be somewhere like I'd be on TV, but realistically, 5 years time, I'm continuing to do my thing. I'm still on the road a lot. Hopefully in 5 years time, I might not be in, I probably won't be in New England at that point. I might be living somewhere else at that point, whether it's like more south or if I'm more on the West Coast. I don't know. But my hope is that I'm traveling around more and that hopefully I'm wrestling enough to potentially make a living off of it.
And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what Ken Powers is all about?
Ooh, yeah. I think. Oh God, that's because I have a lot of matches where I'm like, I think that's a good representation of who I am. I think to hit the overall spectrum of who I am, what I do, and like why I do it, I think I gotta say it's gonna be Social Influence versus First Class. The second time we wrestled them, so it was TKO and I versus Johnny Santos and Sebastian Cage for a company called New Age Wrestling, and it was for the New Age Wrestling tag team titles. I think that match, if you're looking to see who Ken Powers is, you go watch that match.
Could we find that on YouTube?
Yeah, I believe it's on YouTube. I believe if you look up like Social Influence versus First Class, you will find it on YouTube.
Okay, and I will find the match and I will put it in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that wants to see it, hasn't seen it, wants to re-see it after this interview.
Actually, I just tested it myself. I looked up First Class versus Social Influence, and it's literally the first option.
Oh, can you please send it to me?
Yeah, I'll snag the link and send it to you now.
Greatly appreciated. And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Ooh.
This is our
Alright.
speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Alright. Fast as possible, right?
I mean, you could take your time if you want. I just say speed round, bonus round.
Oh, come on, man. Alright, we're going off the top of the dome here. Alright, let's go.
Okay. Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Oh god, immediately. Shit. A man who's reinvented himself time after time and gotten over so many different gimmicks in so many different places. I'm biased on this one. Give me Matt Hardy.
Worst wrestler.
Mantar.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Right now?
Anybody.
Anybody. Honestly, give me one of the best wrestlers alive right now. Give me Seth Rollins.
Oh, yeah. If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Funny enough, Matt Taven uses a song that I mentioned earlier on the Indies. I'd come out to Pretty Handsome Awkward by The Used.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Dead, and it's a shame.
You would have also accepted taste great on toast.
Alright, fair.
Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
I believe technically it's a vegetable, but like it rides the border.
So your answer is vegetable. Yeah. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, my answer is vegetable.
It is indeed a fruit.
Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, it has, it's tomato logic. It has seeds.
It's got seeds and they're on the inside, so then, like, that's the whole reason why strawberry's not a fruit, because the seeds are on the outside.
Yes. New Japan wrestler Taichi. His ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
I mean, it depends on the guy. We've got guys out there who wrestle naked. But honestly, you can't, if you go more than like, you got to cover at least half of the ass cheek. Like, if you cover less than half of the ass cheek, like, unless you're Rikishi, you're not getting away with it.
Okay, so 50%. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No.
And there's the correct answer. That will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me, Ken.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And once again, where can we find all things Ken Powers on social media?
All right. All things social media wise, you can follow me at The Ken Powers on all platforms. The Facebook page is The Ken Powers as well. You can find me on Twitch. We mentioned that earlier at twitch.tv/the_Ken Powers. And if you're feeling it in your heart and you want to, support the guy behind Ken Powers, you can go on over to prowrestlingtees.com/thekenpowers and buy a shirt. Or if I'm wrestling in your area, come on out. Say hi. If you mention you saw this podcast, I'll give you a free signed 8x10.
Awesome. And there's no need to type it into your Google machine. All of the links to all his social media, his merchandise, his Twitch, his YouTube will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link, a new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt. Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment. We're on YouTube and Castbox. This was sponsored by Red Energy and Pale Coffee. Join us next Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews. Follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on X and Instagram. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, Ken, when I say Wrestling with, you say entertainment, okay?
Sounds good.
For always special guest Ken Powers, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.